I am making 150 years of probably one of the most divisive foods of all time, tofu.
Tofu might not look like anything fancy, but it was invented over 2,000 years ago, supposedly by an ancient Chinese prince, if legend is to be believed. And there have been many dishes invented in that time, but it wasn't until 1860 that one of the true modern classics was invented, mapo tofu. And that is all thanks to a sweet old lady who ran a restaurant in the Sichuan province in China. She was kind of famous around town, of course because she had good food, but also because her face had a very distinctive look to it. It was very pockmarked due to scars from her having smallpox previously, so she got the nickname Chen Mapo, Mapo meaning pockmarked. One of her most well-known dishes was made with tofu, chili, pork, and Sichuan peppercorns, and it became famous with the laborers and oil workers that frequented her restaurant looking for a nice, filling meal. Eventually, the dish was named after her, mapo tofu. However, it wouldn't be until the 1950s, after World War II, that mapo tofu eventually found its way halfway across the world in the United States. Here, I have made my own version of mapo tofu with the main difference being a mix of miso paste and sambal oelek instead of the traditional bean paste.
Okay, right off the bat, I love the texture of the tofu. It's very soft and it's complemented with this chicken, and of course you have to eat it with this rice as well. Yeah, that's really good.
Even though tofu had been introduced to America as early as 1903, it wasn't until the 1960s that it really started being eaten outside of Asian households. Thanks to the growing environmental consciousness of the American public, which in turn made people think more critically about the foods that they were putting inside their bodies, people started searching for more healthy options and alternatives to their regular foods. This, of course, set up tofu to become the next new superfood. There was only one problem. It was kind of a strange flavor palette in comparison to what people were used to, and most people had no idea what to do with it. Some people settled on eating it plain and uncooked, which is probably where the bland and flavorless allegations came from, but in order to make it a bit more tasty, other people turned to adding powdered flavorings and cooking it on a pan or baking it. Some of those flavorings, nutritional yeast, which had only just hit the grocery stores a decade earlier as a plant-based source of protein, dehydrated onion powder, and dehydrated garlic powder, all of which gained popularity after World War II. Here, I have first seasoned the tofu slices on both sides, then pan-fried them to make them nice and crispy.
This is the tofu stir fry. Now, even though this is not as classic as the mapo tofu, I am still really excited to get into this because, I mean, look at that crust of spices on it. I will say one thing is that I do think that I should have cooked these just a little bit more because they are still kind of soft on the inside. Overall though, not bad for the 1960s.
By the 1980s, tofu had pretty much become the food to buy if you were looking for a meat substitute, which around this time, a lot of people were. Turns out vegetarianism was only becoming more popular along with veganism, which was still a fairly new idea thanks to rising awareness about animal rights and a couple of pretty influential books. And thanks to a new fast food chain opening up that you might have heard of before, Panda Express, Chinese food was starting to become the new American obsession. This of course led to Americans starting to experiment with new ways to use tofu besides covering it in a bit of seasoning powder and just baking it. Now people started to make tofu stir fries and started to use other Chinese ingredients that previously might have felt too foreign or too different of a flavor palette to use, like soy sauce and its cousin that tastes good, but that you should definitely not sniff straight out of the bottle unless you want to question everything, oyster sauce. The foods might not have been traditional exactly, but they were something new, and that's okay too. The dish that I made is something quick and easy that might have been similar to foods around that time, a garlic sesame crispy tofu pan fry.
Already, I am so excited to eat this. It just smells so good. It actually tastes exactly like sesame chicken, and I don't know why I wasn't expecting that, but I will say I couldn't really even tell that it was tofu instead of chicken in there. Yeah, I think I'm about to eat this whole plate.
This is where it starts to get fun. By the 2010s, tofu had become a staple in American grocery stores all throughout the country, so there was only one thing left to do: put it into cake. That's right, of course there were still the people who used tofu in savory foods, but now people had started testing the limits of what tofu could really do. It is now put in salads, in tacos, it is even used as an egg substitute in scrambles and quiches. But one of its greatest uses came out of silken tofu, which is much softer and more delicate than the firm tofu that seems to be the default. Silken tofu found its way into dressings to make them more creamy, in pasta sauces to make them richer without heavy cream, and my personal favorite, in desserts. Here I have made a tofu chocolate tart, and I do have to mention a few things quickly. Mine was having trouble setting, so to make yours set better, you can always use dark chocolate instead of white chocolate like I did, because that was just my preference, but it also doesn't set as firm. Or you can just freeze it and eat it like ice cream. Also, make sure to really get as much of that moisture out of the silken tofu as you can before blending. The mixture should be very thick.
Now this is the star of the show, because this is a tofu chocolate tart that honestly does not even taste like tofu at all. Like, if I were to just have been given a slice of this, I would not have been able to guess that there was tofu in it. I mean, it honestly just tastes like a chocolate mousse. It's so rich and creamy, but also incredibly light. Like, I think I could probably eat half of this entire cake and not feel full. If I'm gonna say anything was a win, it would be this one. Thank you so much for watching, and like always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye!